I actually do breed guppies in a 5-gallon bucket. And if you want to learn how to do that too, why don't you stick around and watch? But first, make sure you hit that sub button if you're not subscribed yet. So have you ever wanted to breed guppies, but you don't have the tank space, but you have a spare 5-gallon bucket lying around? Well, now you can breed guppies too in a 5-gallon bucket, or a aquarium. So what is a aquarium? Let's start there. A aquarium is a combination of the two words bucket and aquarium. You put them together, you have a aquarium. It's basically like summer tubbing. You stick your water in a bucket. You can put a sponge filter in there. You can put a heater in there. I know heaters sound dangerous in a plastic container, but I figured out 2 ways you can do it. I'll tell you about those as well in this video. So aquariums are just, you go to Home Depot, you buy a 5-gallon bucket. You fill it with water. You're all set. It's going. You cycle it like you would normally cycle a fish tank. There's real no crazy thing about it. It's just what it is. A 5-gallon bucket with water instead of a glass container with water. Now, I started putting guppies in a bucket because I had a strain of guppies I was breeding, and I started getting some like orange mosaics out of it, and I only wanted the blue-purple ones. So I was like, what am I going to do with all these extra cull guppies that I don't want? And I was like, well, I've got a bucket. I've got an extra 5-gallon sponge filter. Let's throw them in the bucket, see what happens. Threw them in the bucket, figuring nothing of it. It was just males at the time. Then I had some undesirable females, so I threw them in the bucket as well. And lo and behold, a month later, I had guppy fry in my bucket. So now the issue comes, how do I heat this? And how do I make sure that the levels stay good and don't kill off the fish? So what I ended up doing is I had a grow light above my tank that I used for plants, regular garden plants, and the bucket just turned into a giant thing of green water, so there was free-flowing algae, which helped soak up the nitrates and any excess other things, and the guppies just found their rhythm and kept the population in check and didn't overproduce. I ended up getting an auto fish feeder to hot rod it even further, so that I didn't have to worry about feeding it constantly. I just put it on there. It feeds it every 18 hours with some powdered foods. I made a mix of stuff, different things up. Threw those in there as well. Now let's see, temperature-wise. I keep the temperature at about 76 degrees. Now, how do I do this with a bucket? You can't just take a regular aquarium heater and stick it in a bucket because heaters get extremely hot. If you've ever even put your hand near that heating element, you know that it'll burn you. It burns plecos if they hang on it too long. So what did I do? I had 2 different ways of figuring this problem out. The first way was I took a 12-ounce adult cup, like one of those big glass cups that you would use for, adult beverages. I stuck a regular cylindrical heater in there, suctioned it to the side, and just stuck that in there. So it was in a glass container inside of the plastic. So there was no direct contact between this extremely hot heating device and the side of the bucket. The other thing that I have done is I take my seed mats, which have thermostat regulators on them, and I put one underneath the bucket, and then I kind of wrapped the other one around the bucket, set them both to 76 degrees, and they have a more evenly distributed heat than the so-focused aquarium heaters that I don't have to worry about it melting the plastic or anything. And the heater, both ways, keep the water nice and warm. The seed mat is probably slightly safer route just because you don't have to worry if the cup tips over or something. But I've been doing this now for about 2 years. The guppies are healthy and happy and breeding constantly. It's just an easy alternative method if you don't have the space to put another tank. You're going to want to keep this for small fish, things you want to try and breed that you normally breed outside. Try mollies or platies, but because they get a little bit bigger than guppies, you're probably not going to want to put them in the 5-gallon bucket. You might want to try and get a bigger bucket, which then brings up the question of tubbing. Is tubbing in a bucket the same thing? I think so, because I'm even using one of those plastic storage totes as an aquarium. We'll call that a tub aquarium. I do the same thing with the heater. I have the heater in a glass container, so I don't have to worry about it melting through that plastic, because that plastic is a lot thinner than your 5-gallon bucket plastic would be. So it's really not that difficult to use a aquarium as an alternative means. It also gives you a different perspective on the fish. You're not going to just be looking head on them. It's going to be a constant vertical, above aerial kind of shot. So you actually get to see your fish from a different angle than you normally would from a fish tank. Because fish tanks, we're looking straight at it like this. The only time we really get a top-down view is if we're doing water changes or something, and then the fish are all scattered anyway. So it's cool to see your fish from a different angle as well. Cool little project if you got an extra bucket lying around and you want to try and keep aquarium. And if you don't want to do a tub in the summer, I mean, it's a no-brainer. 6 and 5 gallon buckets outside. It'd be kind of cool to try and do that instead of a summer tub. If you don't want to have to go through getting a giant tote or a big trough or something from a garden supply store, you want to try summer tubbing, but you don't want to go through all the work. Get yourself a 5 gallon bucket. Get yourself a 7, 8, 10 gallon bucket. Get yourself a big old bucket. One of those big like wash tubs kind of thing. People use them for coolers and stuff at summer parties, or like a big tote you bring to the beach. Use one of those. Got the handles on the side. You might only get a couple seasons out of it, but that's something that when the season's over, there's other things you can use it for. You could use it for storage. You could bring the whole thing in if you got another person. Bring it in, put it in a corner of your basement or something. Get yourself a heater that'll heat the water, and you can keep your tub going year round. And then when the season gets to that tubbing season again, you can just pick it up, put it back outside. Same thing with the 5 gallon buckets. So it's a way you can extend your tubbing season if you want to, or if you want to get your feet wet in the tubbing, summer tubbing, you could use a 5 gallon bucket or a slightly bigger bucket instead. But again, if you're doing a 5 gallon, you need to stick to smaller fish. Guppies to me were perfect. I know 5 gallons seems small for guppies, but if you're going to constantly be pulling the fry out the cull anyway, and you're going to be selling them and bring them to a local fish store, you're not going to have an overpopulation in that 5 gallons. And as long as you're keeping up with your water changes constantly, you're not going to have crazy issues there. I know it might sound bad, you're keeping guppies in a 5 gallon something, but I keep all my culls in a 5 gallon, like an actual 5 gallon tank of non-orange and non-purple blues. And those darn things are breeding too. So, as long as you got good water, the size isn't really going to matter because the guppies aren't going to breed if the water's not good. Now, I don't have any substrate. This is the only kind of thing that I have no substrate in. You could put, a small layer of sand in the bottom. You could put some gravel in the bottom. The only thing that's going to help with is with your cycle and keeping the tank seasoned. I find that it's slightly harder to cycle things without some type of substrate in them because you don't have that extra layer of something for the bacteria to grow on. But again, if you want to try your hand at a aquarium and you want to also try and possibly breed in it, throw a pair of guppies in there. Throw a pair of killifish in there. Throw a pair of something small. CPDs. You could probably breed CPDs pretty easily in a 5 gallon bucket. So it's just something you can try. Little project you could do. You can still heat it, you can still feed it the same way as a regular tank. You could put plants in it. I put some Java moss in mine. I also put some water salvia in the top of mine, along with that free-floating algae from the green light. So yes, I do actually breed guppies in a 5 gallon bucket. They are successfully breeding for 2 years now. No issues at all. There might be some fry predation, but for the most part, the guppies have been able to self-regulate themselves to a stable size population where nothing crazy goes on. So if this sounds like a fun project, keeping up aquarium, let me know in the comment section down below. And if you're new here, you enjoy the content, give it a thumbs up, give it a sub if you've done it already, and until next time, I'll catch you guys around.